Hello and welcome to our fourth webinar, What's New in 2022. So just to introduce myself, my name is Anoä and I am in charge of writing the articles in our help center, customer support and experience, and our webinar series. So today we have with us Amira, who is our new customer success manager. She's recently joined the team and is now also part of our webinar family. And we have as our guest speaker, Barney, our head of product, and he will talk about past and upcoming feature of this year. And I will get to pick his brain to ask the what and why. And this will also be your opportunity to get loads of product insights and have a little behind the scene about what's happening when we want to release a feature and what goes on as well in the mind of our head of products. So if you've joined our webinars before, then you would know that we usually focus on one or two features at a time to just give you a little rundown of how to use them and try to make your experience of using Labstep as best as possible. Well, like I said, this one is going to be a little bit different, and it's all about what we've been up to so far and what we will do in the upcoming months as well. So just to do a little bit of housekeeping, you might have noticed that both your cameras and microphones have been disabled. That's completely normal. You won't be able to turn them on throughout the webinar. However, if you want to express your opinion, share your feedback, ask any questions, then please just use the chat or Q&A function. And like I said, Amira will be there to answer all of your questions. So we want to hear from you. So please don't be shy. Go ahead, use the chat, use the Q&A, but just please be mindful of others in the chat. So just to let you know as well, this webinar will last about 30 minutes, and then we will leave 5 to 10 minutes at the end for some questions. So this webinar will also be available on demand in our help center in the upcoming few days. And we will also share a link to the recording of this webinar in the upcoming few days as well. So if we haven't been able to answer your question today, please don't worry. Amira will write down your name and your questions, and we will make sure to reach out to you and answer your question. All right, so let's get started. Hi, Barney, how are you doing?
Hi, Anoä. Yeah, I'm very well. It's a pleasure to be joining you with these webinars.
Thank you so much for joining us indeed. Right, so let's get started. What was the main focus for Q1 and why?
Yeah, so basically the main thing we were working on in the first few months of the year has been like a major overhaul to how permissions work on Labstep, which basically gives users way more granular control over who can do what. So the reason that we kind of focused on this is that we know that data integrity is really important to a lot of our users, and a big part of that comes down to ensuring that only certain people can make certain edits or create certain entities on the platform. And so to facilitate this, we've kind of introduced this new system of custom roles. So previously within a workspace, you had owners and editors and viewers, but now you can kind of create additional roles like lab managers or senior scientists or research assistants, or whatever you need.
Yeah, I can see here an example displayed. The lab manager role was added. So how do you set up these roles?
Yeah, so as you can see there, you can go to your organization overview page. And if you're the admin of the organization, you can kind of go to this roles and permissions tab and just add as many new ones as you want. And yeah, as you can see, we've kind of gone all out to give you kind of as much control as possible over what each role can do. So the first thing you'll notice is that we kind of split all the permissions by the different entity types. So now you can set it so that a user has permission to edit experiments, but not the inventory, or vice versa. And this goes super granular down to all the different things on Labstep, so your protocols, order requests, devices, et cetera, et cetera. And the second thing you'll see is that we've also split the permissions by action. So again, instead of just being able to choose view or edit, you can actually individually toggle whether a particular role has permission to for example, sign an experiment or lock an experiment or unlock, or add notes, add comments and things like that. So yeah, all in all, it's going to give people a lot more power as admins to kind of enforce processes and help hopefully keep workspaces clean and organized, and avoid kind of mistakes and inconsistencies that can crop up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's definitely going to solve quite a few issues that a lot of our users were experiencing, especially when working in big collaborative workspaces where you have loads of people and it can get quite messy easily. So what you've just described, sounds like a very powerful and flexible system. So where do you see this going in the future?
Yeah, so there is actually one more piece to this upgrade, which will be coming in the coming months, which will give you the ability to control permission based on who created the content as well, or who's been assigned. So, for example, you could ensure that only that people can only edit experiments that they created, or experiments that they've been assigned to. And so this then gives you that final level of granularity where you can then give a specific individual permission to do a very specific action on a single piece of content just by assigning that piece of content to them, assuming they have a particular role that grants them that permission. So yeah, that's the kind of the final piece of this permissions upgrade that will be shipping in a few weeks.
Great, that definitely sounds really promising. So I know we've released quite a lot of features and UX improvements since the beginning of the year, and it's quite a lot to just group in one webinar. However, could you maybe tell us about something in particular that you're most excited about?
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm most excited about is actually something that we released right at the beginning of the year in January, which are these integrated Jupyter notebooks, which I think is a really, really cool new and very powerful feature that a lot of our users probably don't know about yet. And basically what these allows you to do is run any custom Python code as part of your protocol or experiment. And the great thing about it is it doesn't require you to set up Python or install anything on your machine, which, if you've ever tried to set up Python, you'll understand the pain. So now you just log into Labstep in your browser. You've got this / command for Jupyter, and it just launches this kind of interactive Python environment that runs actual code. And what's more, this Python environment will come pre-installed with the Labstep Python package, which basically allows you to do kind of anything that you can do by clicking around on the web app. There's kind of a way to do that using the Python package. And so within this environment, it knows which user you are and it knows which experiment it's in. So it makes it quite easy to access that experiment and all the data on it. And then you can kind of manipulate it and do some really cool things.
Great. So what kind of things can you use this feature for then?
Yeah, so I think the kind of obvious example is to do kind of real-time analysis of data from an experiment. So I think we've got an example of that. Yeah, so here, for example, so yeah, say you've just finished running a protocol and you've put in all your raw data, or maybe you've fetched it from a device or uploaded as a raw data file. And usually you'd go back into the office and download that data, spend some time wrangling it and trying to plot it, or you might even have to send it off to some informatics people to do and wait for them to send it back. Now you can kind of set up a Jupyter notebook to automatically take that data, run any kind of analysis that you need, produce some sort of plot, and just attach it back to your experiment as a data field. So that's kind of a simple example, but it's not just limited to working with the data from a single experiment. What we've had some of our users doing, and I think where it becomes even more powerful, is to kind of set up a Jupyter notebook to gather the data from all your experiments, or all the experiments in a particular collection, or that share a particular tag. And then what you can do is gather all the data from those experiments, either compare it or compile it together and produce a kind of a summary plot or a summary kind of analysis, which is obviously something that would take a lot longer to do if you had to go by hand, through all your experiments and download all the data from all of them individually. So yeah, that's kind of where it starts getting even more powerful. And like I said, you could even use these things within your protocols and experiments to automate pretty much any kind of activity on Labstep, because as I said, the Python package does allow you to kind of automate a lot of tasks that you would normally do by clicking. So you could run a check to see which experiments were kind of missing signatures or something, and then send out reminders to whoever needs to be reminded. Or you could kind of go through your inventory, looping through, and to see if there's any kind of missing metadata fields, and then maybe assign somebody to fill that in. Or even just kind of do a big bulk update of thousands of your items at once, based on some kind of custom spreadsheet that you load in. So I think, yeah, really your imagination is kind of the limit when it comes to the potential applications of this feature. And I'm really excited to see what uses people find for it.
And all of this just thanks to some Python magic.
Yeah.
So what was the thought behind building this feature?
So I think there were three main elements that we were kind of thinking about. The first being reproducibility, which is obviously something that we kind of care a lot about at Labstep. And yeah, I think it's really important that this data analysis step gets captured and it is kept connected both to the raw data that you're analyzing and also to all those experimental methods used to produce it, so that you can then reproduce that whole process end to end. I think, yeah, it's very common, I think, for the analysis and the kind of collection of the data to happen in very separate spaces and get disconnected very easily, which I think can be a bit of a problem when it comes to just tracing back even how you arrived at a particular result. So yeah, one of the motivations was to just complete that gap and make this end-to-end reproducible science a kind of a reality. I think the second one, which is kind of related, is the idea of reusability. So again, the other thing we care a lot about at Labstep is saving our users time. And I think it's a real waste when scientists have to kind of waste their precious time and effort doing the same things over and over again.
Yeah.
And I think kind of plotting and doing analysis is a good example of one of those cases where lots of different people in the lab maybe are kind of reinventing the wheel each time, doing very similar analyses. So yeah, the idea is if you can kind of get someone to set this up once and make it part of that standard operating procedure or that protocol that defines how to collect the data, and at the end you put in this Jupyter notebook. The end user doesn't even have to know any Python, as long as someone else has set it up in the past. In theory, the end user can just hit the run button and wait for that magic to happen. So yeah, I think this is really kind of the future of how science should be done. And yeah, I think the third and final reason was just that we do have this very powerful API to let people automate tasks, and we've built this Python package to try and make it much easier to use. But there is still a kind of a big barrier to using it, which is that you do have to go through all this effort to kind of get Python set up on your machine, and so on, which can be a bit of a pain. So yeah, the third part was just, again, making this advanced functionality a bit more accessible and easy to use for people.
Great. So how would you get this set up then?
So at the moment we're offering these Jupyter notebooks as a premium feature, and so as part of that we kind of offer a lot of tech support as well with actually getting them set up to do what you want. So again, even if you don't have people in your team who are particularly familiar with Python, we can actually kind of guide you through that process and help get these scripts set up to do the automations that you want. So yeah, if you're interested in getting set up, please do reach out to info@Labstep or any of us.
Great, thank you. Now, I hear that you have a feature that you want to debut, especially for our webinar attendees here today. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, I'm very excited to, finally be able to release this, and especially live on the webinar makes it even more exciting. So yeah, it's a problem we've kind of been working on for a while, and any eagle-eyed users out there may have noticed the kind of under construction section of the app.
Yeah, all right, that's very interesting. Right, just for dramatic effect, let's get a countdown, shall we? Okay, Amira?
Yeah, let's do it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And our new feature is Labstep export client.
Great.
Very interesting.
All right, Barney, tell us more about this.
Thank you. Thanks for the dramatic reveal, Anoä. So yeah, the problem we've been trying to solve is how we can make it easy for our users to get kind of a complete backup of their data. Obviously, we have multiple backups of the Labstep database on AWS in different kind of geographical regions for redundancy and so forth. But as a scientist myself, I definitely understand our users' desire to have a copy of your data in your own hands, because it is so valuable to you. But the problem is, as we've been making it easier to capture data on Labstep, our users have kind of unsurprisingly been taking advantage of this to capture more and more data, to the extent that it's become too big to just download all your data in one zip file. It'll just take forever to download. So yeah, basically to overcome this issue, what we've done is we've built like a little standalone app that you can kind of install on your computer, and it lives up in the system tray if you're on a Mac, or down in the system tray if you're on Windows, kind of like your Google Drive or your OneDrive. And basically it just works in the background to download backups of all your experiments as you complete them. So and that will just store it on your local machine, and it will back up either on a daily basis or weekly or monthly, depending on what you need.
Great. I mean, a lot of users have been asking about, how to export the data from Labstep to their device. So this is going to definitely be fantastic news for all of them. But so what kind of format is this export in?
Yeah, good question. So basically you get a folder for each experiment, and in the folder you have a PDF overview of the experiment, also an HTML version, which just means you can open it in any kind of normal web browser, and it's also a bit easier to then convert into other formats like Word docs and things. And then the other thing you have is kind of a series of JSON files, which, for those who don't know, it's kind of it's a very structured format that kind of contains all of the raw data and the kind of system level information, like IDs and dates and how it all connects together. And the advantage of these files is just that it's very easy for a computer to kind of process and work with, so that you can use these to either fully restore an experiment or transfer it to a different system and so on, without losing some of that important connecting data. And then obviously the other thing is it also downloads copies of all the files and all the images and so forth that are attached to the experiment, so that you've got everything there.
Great. So definitely users will have options to choose from. So how can we get access to the export client?
So yeah, if you kind of you can now kind of go into your workspace settings, and under that export tab where you used to see this under construction message, you'll now see a link to download the desktop client. So there'll be links for Mac and also for Windows. Yeah, we'll post a help article in the chat which kind of will guide you through the process of getting that set up.
Wonderful. I think a lot of us have noticed the export tab had that currently being upgraded message for a while now. So I think a lot of people would be pleased to hear that this is no longer the case. Thank you so much for sharing what you've been working on. Now, I think we were also hoping that you'd be able to give us like a little preview of what's coming next. Anything getting released this weekend?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, we kind of work in 2 weekly sprints. So we try and release new features, new functionality every couple of weeks. And what we've been working on for the last couple is basically all about the chemistry functionality on Labstep. So yeah, you might remember just before Christmas last year, we introduced the chemistry command into your experiments, where you can insert kind of a reaction scheme inline into your protocols or your experiments. And we've been working on a big upgrade to this feature, which will hopefully go live this weekend. And yeah, the main point of this upgrade is basically to really integrate this chemistry functionality a lot more with the inventory, which again will hopefully just save you a lot of time and also give you access to a few more powerful features that we have there. So yeah, I think as you can see in this little video, now when you're kind of inserting a reaction scheme, instead of having to draw all the chemicals out by hand, if they're in your inventory already, you can just search for them and it will pull in that structure. If it's not in your inventory, you can still search, and if the chemical is in PubChem, it will pull in that structure anyway. And yeah, each time you kind of add a reactant or a product in this way, it also is going to automatically create an inventory field on your experiment, so that you can then specify exactly which batch of that chemical was used, keep track of the stock, keep track of the lineage between the reactants and the products, and all of that kind of more advanced functionality that we've been adding to those inventory fields, such as being able to link data as well to those products if you do any analysis on them. So yeah, again, it kind of saves you the time of having to draw out these structures multiple times. But if you do like drawing out the reaction first, you can do it that way around as well. We have this little auto detect feature. So if you draw out the reaction first, you can then just auto detect what those reactions and products are on the canvas. And when this comes in handy is obviously if you're kind of doing a reaction to create something brand new, which isn't in your inventory yet. It just means that then when you click that link to inventory, it will give you the option to create a new resource in just a few clicks, and that will come pre-populated with with its structure and all its metadata, which again saves you the time of having to enter that data twice.
Nice. So I noticed that the stoichiometry table itself has also been upgraded. Is there any additional functionality there?
Yeah. So yeah, based on kind of feedback from our users, we've split up that stoichiometry table into reactants, products, and solvents. And this has allowed us to provide some kind of additional calculations, such as for products, we now kind of calculate the yield by allowing you to kind of enter that actual mass and compare it to the theoretical mass. There's a few other bits and bobs as well that were just a bit smoother. So now you can kind of specify these amounts either way around. So either you can specify the amount in moles and it will calculate the grams that you need, or you can just enter the grams and it will just calculate the moles. And again, if you or you can kind of change the units to liters if you're working with liquids, and it will again automatically kind of adjust the calculations based on the density, so that it all adds up for you. So yeah, it's just now a bit smoother with a bit more extra functionality in there.
Nice, definitely a big hooray for all of our chemist users. So what can you tell us now about what you have planned for the rest of the year?
As usual, we've got lots and lots of plans. I think we've got a bit of a overview of some of the major features here. Of course, kind of in each release, we also, trying to include a couple of smaller features that are requested by our users, as well as just general UX improvements to make the platform easier to use. One thing I was quite keen to talk about, which I think is very exciting, is this multiplexing feature that's coming up in a few months, because I think this is going to make a big difference to a lot of our users and kind of create a kind of fundamentally different way of using the platform. I think one of the things our users are kind of struggling with a bit at the moment is how to use, these more advanced features like your lineage tracking and your linking all that data to your inventory in situations where you're kind of running a protocol on, 10 or 20 or even hundreds of samples, all in parallel in the same experiment. Or similarly, even if you're working with one sample, if you're maybe, testing lots of different values of a particular parameter, and you're going to have a different data set for each of them, for example. So yeah, with the upgrade that we've got in the pipeline, what you're going to be able to do is set certain fields as kind of variable fields, and then you can go ahead and select multiple values for that field. So yeah, whether that's the amount of a reagent that you've used, the kind of temperature that you're doing, or some other parameter, or even like the identity of the sample that you're using. For example, in this little screenshot, there's testing a bunch of different batches of this resource. So yeah, you can then enter all the different values that you're testing, and then basically visualize all these different conditions and all the data associated with them, kind of in a big table like so. So yeah, and obviously this the inputs and outputs are linked together by that inventory tracking, and all those data points are then linked as well to the items that you've used.
Nice. So when can our users expect to get their hands on this?
Yeah, so yeah, it's quite a major upgrade. So we're definitely going to be working on it for the next few months at least before doing the official release. However, for those who are interested, we do have an opportunity for users to kind of join our beta program. And what this will do is it kind of give you early access to prototypes of new features to test out and provide us feedback. So this both kind of gives you a bit of a sneak peek of what's coming, but it also helps actually shape how the final feature will work. So you can make sure it's going to work for you and your use cases. So yeah, we really appreciate the input of our users in this kind of thing. So yeah, do sign up if you're interested, and I think Amira will post a link as well in the webinar chat.
Great. This is definitely the opportunity for all of our users to kind of get involved in what we're doing. Like I was saying at the beginning, it really is join us backstage behind the scenes. So this is awesome. Great. Well, now let's open the floor for some questions. Amira, any questions in the chat or Q&A function?
Yeah, so our Jupyter Notebook feature is quite popular among the webinar attendees. So we have two questions in relation to that. One of them is it possible to load some Python libraries into the Jupyter Notebook function? So NumPy or NumPy.
Yeah. So yeah, it comes kind of pre-installed with a bunch of packages that we think most scientists will find useful. So things like pandas, NumPy, SciPy, things like that. So yeah, those are there. You can install additional packages like as a line in the Jupyter Notebook. That obviously will slow down the code running because it has to install the package every time. But so what I would suggest is, yeah, if there is a common package that people are wanting, do just let us know, and we can add it into those pre-installed ones so that it's there. If it's something super niche, then we probably won't add it in for everyone. But yeah, in the future, we hope to let people have custom images with packages that they want, but that will be a little way down the line.
That sounds really cool. So our second question was, is there any plans to support R in the future? So I believe that was related to the Jupyter Notebooks as well.
Yeah, I think that's something that I think in theory should be quite easy to do, because Jupyter is designed to support R as well. So I think yeah, that's definitely a possibility. We haven't tried enabling it. It's one of those things. It may just be a little toggle that we enable and then you just get R immediately, or there may be some issues with it that we don't anticipate. But But yeah, that's definitely something that should be possible.
Very cool. I think we'll just give all of our attendees to post another question if they have any, so there weren't any more questions left unanswered at the moment.
Great. I actually have a question. So Barney, I know you've joined Labstep in 2018, and back then you were a research intern. And then for the past couple of years, you've been doing product management. So, I mean, you've definitely seen the product change quite a bit and evolve from year to year. So going into 2022, what was the mindset, and I want to say like main focus to kind of take Labstep to the next level?
Yeah, it's been great to watch the product evolve from when I joined back in 2018, and yeah, we've done a lot of really awesome stuff in that time. But I think, yeah, for 2022, well, I guess it builds on what we kind of did in 2021 in terms of, you know, really working on reducing that barrier to entry, making it easy as possible to just get going on Labstep and start capturing your data, introducing things like the / commands, a lot of drag and drop, you know, introducing this kind of single page notebook experience where you can kind of get everything into your experiment entry. And then, yeah, this year we kind of got 3 aims, and they're all kind of building on this theme of capturing data. I think the first is about helping people to not just capture their data, but actually capture it in a more structured way. So, you know, making it easy to use those inventory fields and those data fields. So you're moving away from having all that useful data just in plain text or in tables and spreadsheets, and yeah, having it in this more structured format. So that's features like the multiplexing I was talking about and the variables, as well as things like the workflow builder that we have planned for later in the year. So yeah, that's kind of one big theme. I think the second is also a bit more of an increased focus on data integrity. So making sure that that data that you're capturing is clean and is reliable. And that's why we started the year with, you know, with these custom roles and permissions, and we've got plans for kind of similar improvements in kind of the locking system and validation, to yeah, really make sure that that data is not just captured but also you know, reliable. And then I think the final part of that towards the end of the year is really going to be, you know, to start building some more features that actually kind of start showing off the power of having all your data structured and connected in this single environment. So, you know, we released a few features along these lines last year in terms of that lineage tracking and that you know, data summary on the resource page. But yeah, we've got a lot more planned in that direction to really yeah, demonstrate the advantage of capturing all your data in this way.
Great. It really is about, you know, doing more science and then just less grind. I like that. Great.
Exactly.
Amira, I think I saw another question popping up, or
yeah, but I've answered that in the chat. It's just about some of our additional features which everyone is really excited about, so that's great.
That's awesome. Great. Well, if we don't have any more questions, I think we will end the webinar here. Any more questions? This is your last chance. Let's give it a minute. All right. Well, this is all we have time for today. Thank you so much for joining us, Barney. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. And also, thank you so much, Amira, for being here. I mean, this is your first webinar. You just joined the team. You've done amazing monitoring the chat. I mean, thank you so much for being here.
We have one extra question coming in. If we could just hold on right at the last second.
On tenterhooks.
Very excited to hear this question.
A lot of suspense here.
Yeah, we're building up.
Well, while we're waiting for that, yeah, just thank you, Anoä, again for
Yeah, thank you so much, Anoä.
and also Amira for joining. Yeah, it's been good fun.
Definitely. I think this was my favorite webinar to host.
Yeah,
it was great
great.
to just have people to chat to for once.
Okay, so our suspense question has come in. So we have a webinar attendee asking if it is possible to have a paper that can certify someone attended. So like a certificate, if there is a certificate for the to say that you've attended. Yeah, almost like CPD certificate.
Oh, yeah.
If that makes sense.
I mean, we can probably find a way to produce that.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Can you just please make sure to write down their name so we can then reach out regarding this.
Yep, so that's all done. We'll get those names noted and we'll try to get something to you.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And if you have any more questions or would like to know more about a feature we talked about today, please don't hesitate to contact us via info@labstep.com. And once again, thank you so much, Barney and Amira, for being here today. My name is Anoä, and this has been What's New in 2022. See you at the next webinar. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.